Welcome to another Fire Friday. I am Natasha Bryant. I am a licensed mental health professional and confidence mindset coach here to help you scale and lead with confidence and clarity without losing yourself. Thank you for joining me for another Fire Fridays. If you have not watched the previous Fire Fridays throughout this month, make sure you visit my YouTube channel, Speak Like Transformation TV, so you can check out those replays. Also, make sure you just subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe if you have not. When you watch the replays, and if you're watching live right now, like the videos. If you're watching on LinkedIn, what is up? Welcome. If you're joining me for lunch, thank you. Thank you for bringing me on your break. Matter of fact, thank yourself for taking the time to focus on you during your break. Again, make sure you subscribe to the Speak Like Transformation TV YouTube channel. Let's talk about today's topic. We've been doing a lot of work this month, really focusing on the identity gaps that exist and the habits that create the identity gap between who you need to be, who you are, and who you need to be to achieve the goals, and talk about how that blocks execution, right? So we talked about the 3 P's: proving, pleasing, perfecting. We talked about how to really identify and connect with your present self, who you need to be currently, so you can become her, right? And now we're going to be talking about the real reason why execution, the real reason why you're not executing. You might be like, well, Natasha, we talked about all this. I know it's the pleasing, the perfect. We're going to go a little deeper. I'm going to actually take you in a different direction as well, because there's more to it than just the habits as well that we talked about already. And so I'm excited about this conversation. Light up the chat, the comment box. If you have any questions or comments, I would love to see who is joining me during this conversation. And if you are watching the replay, still light up the comment box. Share your thoughts, share your opinions. I would love to interact and see how you are enjoying Fire Fridays. And if you're liking Fridays, let me know if you want me to keep it going as we go into the next month in February. So I want you to understand this. If knowing what to do was enough, you would already be where you want to be. I'm going to repeat that. If knowing what to do was enough, that's all you need to know, which is how to do it, how to get there, then you would already be there. But if you're finding yourself feeling stuck, if you're finding yourself hesitating, if you're finding yourself procrastinating, right, avoiding, and you have all the information, then you already know that the information is not enough. And I'm going to share a little secret with you, because the first thing you might be thinking is, it's because I'm just lacking motivation, or I'm just lacking the energy, or I'm just lacking discipline. I need to create a better schedule, or I'm just lacking the desire. No, that's not it. I know. I'm surprising you right now. That's not even a reason. We're not even going to talk about that. I'm not talking about discipline. I'm not talking about lack of motivation. I'm not talking about not having the desire. No, that is not the real reason why you are not executing. And let me tell you why, right? Because, you could have the vision board, for example, especially now in January, you might be still having a vision board you might be attending. The month isn't over yet. There's still vision board parties going on and workshops, or you may have attended one already. So you might have the vision board. You may have taken the time to think about, what is my vision for 2026? You might already have that idea. And yet there's still no movement. And yet there's still angst about actually moving forward with this vision. Or you might even have the certifications, you have the degrees, you did the trainings, you went to school for all of this. You have all the information that is needed, and yet there's still no launch within your business. Goals. You have all your goals written down. Every year you write your goals down. And not even just write your goals down. Every year you recognize, okay, these are the steps I need to take to achieve the goals. And yet there's still little execution. And it's not because you're not motivated enough. Not because you're not disciplined enough. It's not because you don't have enough desire. And that's what leads to a lot of the pleasing, perfecting, improving, because then you start to question, am I enough? Am I doing enough? And the answer is yes. More than likely you are. More like you are doing more than enough, because you did all the trainings, you broke everything down, you got all the planners, right? Like you more than likely, yes, the answer is yes, you are doing enough. So you may be thinking, well, Natasha, what's the problem then? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what that problem actually is. And the issue is there's this misalignment. And you might be seeing a pattern here, how much I talk about alignment. Because if you have all the things, you have all the information, you have all the tools, and yet there's still a struggle with execution, is because there is a misalignment in all the knowledge and tools you have with your mindset and the internal work that needs to be done. Like I talked about that identity gap, there's also the execution gap. There's this gap that there's these lack of, there's these missed opportunities and this internal work that needs to be done. And without that awareness, the gap just keeps widening. We're going to talk about how to gain that awareness. Here's the first part about the awareness. It's really recognizing, right, that most women, they identify themselves as capable. They're very aware that, oh, I can do the thing. Like I have 3 degrees. I raised 5 kids, I raised 2 kids by myself, right? I climbed up the ladder and I am now the executive of X business, or I have started my own business. Like most women know that they are capable. So it's not that they are lacking the capability. Most women are identified as responsible. You're able to know what to do and follow through on it. You recognize what you're accountable for. You take on what are the tasks I need to do to get things done. Like you get things done. Most women are getting things done, right? And also most women are identified as high achieving, especially Black women. We are constantly figuring out how I can make sure I am constantly growing, advancing, right? Improving, right? Because a lot of times we get caught in this, like we need to prove our worth and value being a Black woman in America. And so the high achieving is not a problem. Like we set a goal and we're like, what's the next thing? Where I gotta go next? How can I get better at this? How can I grow? What's my next goal? What's the next level I need to be at, right? So that's not a problem either. And even with all of that, right? Being capable, being responsible, being a high achiever, there's still a struggle with executing consistently, even with all of that. Why? Right? You might be thinking again, Natasha, I'm with you. So what's the problem? What is the block, right? The block is, this is the block here, that you are being taught how to perform, but not how to self-lead. You're being taught how to do all the things to perform well at something, to execute things in excellence. But you're not being taught how to actually lead yourself. You may even be a great leader for others, which is why you're the executive of X company, which is why you have a business and employees love you, because you are great at teaching and leading others to thrive. You are great at building other people up, helping other people live their best lives and achieve their goals, but yet struggle with applying those same tactics and tools that you're giving everybody else to yourself in your own life. You're great at exceeding goals, high achieving, right? You're great at achieving, and not just achieving a goal, but exceeding the goal. Like that's not a problem. It's not even a problem. You do everything with excellence. You make sure that every T is dotted, every T is crossed, every I is dotted, that nothing that you do is just haphazard. It's done in excellence. But yet you still struggle with seeing your worth beyond your works. That's the problem. Again, knowing how to perform, but not knowing how to self-lead. When we're thinking about execution, right? Execution requires decision ownership, not just motivation. We talked about this in the previous Fire Friday. So guys, for sure, listen, check out the previous Fire Fridays. I'm telling you, gems have been dropped. You want to check them out. But in one of the previous Fire Fridays, I talked about how motivation or confidence is not based on motivation, it's based on action. And the reason why is because motivation is emotionally driven. When we're motivated, we have energy. We're motivated because we feel like doing it. We're motivated. We're driven. We have this drive, this energy to go, right? But execution requires you to move even when you don't feel like it. So if you're waiting until you're motivated to do something, you might be waiting for some time, especially if you're not in the mood, especially if you're feeling anxious or depressed, right? So it's not about being motivated, because now you're basing on how you're feeling in the moment, right? It's about that decision ownership. It's about standing 10 toes down, standing firm on your decision without needing reassurance. Taking ownership of decisions that you need to make for you and not trusting or waiting on others to give you guidance on what is the right decision or the best decision, but owning that for yourself, for you to determine what is the right decision and the best decision for you. That decision ownership also is where, you are able to move even when you don't feel like it. Because it's like, this is what I know I need to do this. I don't feel like it, but I'm going to own that this is a decision I have to make. Because again, you have a choice. And everything you do, you always have a choice. You have the choice to allow yourself to be led by your emotions. We talked about this before. That's an emotionally driven response. Or you have the choice of allowing your decisions to be driven by your values. That's a values driven response, meaning that whatever action you take is based on what is most important to you. So even if you don't feel like doing it, you do it anyway because you know what, because you recognize this is what's important to me. I know I need to do this to be able to execute. I know I need to be able to do this to reach the goals that I have for my life. I know I need to do this to create the impact that I want to create on and leave on this world. And so I'm going to own that this is what I need to do. This decision ownership. Now let's talk about this execution gap that I mentioned earlier, right? The execution gap, right? What is that? You might be thinking like, well, what is the gap, right? The gap is vision without identity alignment. So you have the vision, like you know what you want. You know what you want for your business, you know what you want for your career, right? But is it aligned with who you are authentically? Is it aligned with the life that you actually, the version of you that you want to become? Or is this vision based on what people are saying you should do, or based on what society says is a good job or a good career or success, or what success is? And also, you have the vision, but who you are showing up as presently, is that aligning with who you need to be to actually execute that vision? Again, the gap happens when that vision doesn't align with your identity. Another way this gap is created, right, is when there's strategy without emotional regulation. Again, that internal work. We don't talk about emotional regulation enough. We talk about how we just gotta like do it fearlessly, or just get it done, grind, right? But we don't talk about, what do I do with the emotions that come up when I'm grinding, when I'm burnt out, right? When I'm anxious, when I'm feeling depressed, when I'm feeling defeated, discouraged, I'm having some shame or embarrassment, some fear. Like, what do I do when those emotions come up? That's why emotional regulation is so important. You have to be able to learn how to regulate your emotions, how to calm your nervous system down so it gets out of that fight, flight, or freeze, which is also known as survival mode, so you can actually then follow through on the strategies that you have. Because you can have all the information, have all the plans, but it can be really hard to actually take step in executing that strategy if there's so much emotions going on and the energy is so high, because now you're just in survival, fight, flight, or freeze, and you're not gonna be able to think clearly. So emotional regulation is key. Another thing that causes this gap, right, is goals without systems for doubt, fear, and resistance. So this connects what I'm talking about with the emotional regulation, right? What systems do you have to regulate your emotions? We just talked about why regulating your emotions are important. So now it's also making sure you have systems in place to regulate your emotions. Because again, you can have the goals, you can have the vision, you can have it all laid out. These are tasks I need to complete. But when doubt comes up, when fear comes up, when that resistance where you're like, I don't know about this, I don't want to do this, right? Or somebody says something and now you're like, well, I don't care what they say, I'm not going to, right? The resistance that comes up, right? What tools, what systems do you have in place to bring that energy down so you can still follow through on those goals anyway? Here's some examples of what I'm talking about, that execution gap, right? For my entrepreneur women, this is what it's going to look like. You know exactly how to launch, right? You took all the coaching courses, or you had the mentorship, you have all the tools, you watched all the videos on what you need to do. So it's not that you don't know how to launch. You know what to do. You know how to launch. You have the graphics, you have the title, you have it all. And yet there's hesitancy. You find yourself being hesitant because visibility threatens your identity. You see why it's so important to do the internal work? Because technically, right, you should be confident to launch because you have all the tools. You have the certifications, you have the degrees, you have the numbers after the letters after your name to show your authority and on this topic. You have all the resources, you have the name, you have it all. So what's the problem? Oh, this fear that when I show up on camera, when I come out to the world about this idea, when I share my launch, I'm scared and threatened by the fact that my people might have a negative perception of me, of who I am. I feel like that is me actually showing up on social media or announcing to people what I'm launching. I feel like that visibility is going to threaten and attack who I am, or how I see myself, or how people see me. People may judge me. People may not get it. They might not understand. They may question if I know what I'm talking about. So I'm just not going to launch. You see how that execution gap gets widened? And again, it has nothing to do with discipline. It has nothing to do with discipline. You're disciplined. You did all the work already. You're showing discipline. It has nothing to do with motivation. You are motivated. You did all the work to get the launch ready. It has nothing to do with desire. You truly want this. This is why you built the launch in the first place. So it has nothing to do with that. It's all that internal work of this fear of being judged, this fear of not being seen. Here it is for my professional women. You know how to lead. Like, this is not a problem. You've led teams. Matter of fact, you've gotten awards and a lot of praise for leading teams and creating teams that do well, that surpass goals and expectations, that you end up leading employees or supervisees that often grow and go up into higher leadership positions. You have moved up because of your leadership as well. So you've done the work. It's proof that you know how to lead. But you still end up defaulting to overfunctioning instead of decisive leadership. Even with all this proof that you are a great leader, you know what you're doing, you know how to lead a team and with excellence and doing well and guiding people, and yet you still find yourself doing all the things to prove that you're a good leader. You find yourself staying late when you don't have to stay late, doing other people's jobs when you shouldn't be doing their jobs, saying yes to things that you need to be saying no to, taking on extra responsibilities when you should be delegating, preventing you from being decisive, checking in with other coworkers or colleagues or peers, like, oh, is this the right decision? Should I do this? How should I handle this? Questioning your decision making, second guessing yourself, even when you have it all. Again, has nothing to do with motivation, has nothing to do with discipline, has nothing to do with desire. You have all that. It's this doubt that's blocking you. So we're going to go into self-framework. Remember, the self-framework are different ways to strategize and think about this, but how I'm going to use self a little different this time around. I'm going to use it to help you understand even more, create this awareness, to create more awareness about how this execution gap exist and how it ends up even impacting you in different ways. So let's talk about S. Remember, S is strategy. It's all about having the systems and the structures in place to be able to execute. So when you're thinking about strategy when it comes to this execution gap, what happens is the execution fails when goals aren't connected to who you believe you're allowed to be. So you don't end up having the strategy, or you're not able to follow through on the systems, right? And or the type of systems and strategies or structures you put in place don't really make sense for you, because you're basing your strategy, you're basing your systems, you're basing your structures on who you think you should be, or how you should be showing up, or what you should be doing, because you're not giving yourself the permission to be who you actually need to be. It is time to stop showing up as who you think you should be. It is time to stop showing up as the version that people are telling you you should be showing up as, or what society says is correct or enough or acceptable. And give yourself the permission to show up how you need to show up, just to be you and do you. E and self is all about energy. Remember how you spend your energy, being efficient with your time and prioritization, right? So when we're thinking about this energy gap, this is why the energy gap, we're thinking about the execution gap. This is why the execution gap exists when it comes to energy. Execution, it gets drained when emotional labor outweighs momentum. You are not going to be able to execute the way you want to execute if you're spending all your time and your energy on things that drain you. We talked about energy leaks last week, right? It's really thinking about what is leaking your energy. If you are spending so much time trying to manage other people's emotions, trying to make sure everybody else is stable and good, if you're spending so much of your time doing things that do not serve you, that's helping other people, serving other people, that you're saying yes to things you actually don't want to say yes to, you will become emotionally drained and experienced emotional burnout. And there'll be that emotional labor that you will feel, the heaviness that you will feel on a day to day, which then will outweigh any momentum that you try to have. Even when you try to get moving, even when you're trying to execute, you will not have the energy to do it, because you will be experiencing emotional labor. Let's talk about L. Remember, L is boundaries. What are the things that what are the boundaries you need to put in place so you can actually execute, right? Now, when it comes to those boundaries, this is what leads to the execution gap. Execution stalls when boundaries are unclear. How do boundaries become unclear? Boundaries become unclear when you become passive. Boundaries become unclear when you become more concerned about upsetting others, when you become more concerned about how people will treat you instead of you focusing on how you need to treat yourself. Because then you have a boundary, but then you don't communicate it effectively. So it's like not really clear what you actually truly want, or you don't communicate it at all. You're just trying to like leave hints and breadcrumbs, hoping they pick them up and get it, instead of actually being assertive, firm, and clear about what you want and what you need. Let's talk about F. F, when it comes to the execution gap, remember, F is all about fans, the people in your life, who you surround yourself around, right? So when it comes to that, the execution gap happens because execution struggles in isolation. High achieving women often do not ask for help. When's the last time you asked for help? When's the last time you accepted help when someone offered you help? And a lot of times, help is not being asked for because there's this belief that if I ask for help, I will be seen as weak. Or there's this requirement. I don't know who made up this rule, but there's this requirement that it only counts, success only counts if I do it all by myself. Or there's also this other belief that if I ask for help, people are just going to disappoint me anyway. They're not even going to help me the way I need to be helped. They're not going to show up anyway. So what is even the point? And so you don't get help. You just do it in isolation. Or when people offer you help, you immediately deny it because you're like, I don't want to be a burden. When they're actually saying, I want to help you, but you're automatically assuming that accepting the help will lead to me being a burden on others. Or it's going to be more work accepting help because now I got to explain or I got to give all these instructions. And so it's just better for me just to do it all by myself. And then you're left with all these responsibilities, all these tasks, when you have tons of resources around you to help you make life easier, to help you make the process easier, to help you make the process of execution more efficient, you're still doing it all by yourself. And life is, let me tell you, life is already hard as it is. So to do it by yourself, that's silly. That's silly. So it's really thinking about, right? When you're thinking about all of this, it's really recognizing like execution is a system. It's not a personality trait. It's not like you have, you're creative and this is why you're able to execute or you have, no. Execution is not a personality trait, right? It's an action word. It's not a descriptive word. And so remembering that, like the way you are able to execute is when you have a system. Execution is a system. It's steps and procedures and processes that you're putting in place to really lead to achieving the goals that you want to achieve. Here's a takeaway I want you to receive out of our discussion today. You don't need to become more disciplined. You don't need to become more disciplined. You don't need to become more motivated. You don't need to have more desire. That is not what is needed. So, and the reason why I really want that to sink in is because all of that belief system right there makes you believe that you have to do more. That belief system right there will require you to feel like you're not doing enough or you are not enough. And therefore you end up feeling discouraged, feeling defeated, and then you just quit, which then goes back to why discipline and motivation and desire is not the issue. Because when you don't regulate those emotions, then that's what leads to quitting. But what you do need more of, this is what you actually need more of. What you do need is to become more aligned. It has to make sense. Like your actions, your mindset, how you're thinking, how you see yourself, how you see others, has to align with the vision you have for yourself. How you're showing up in the world, what you truly want and desire has to align with the vision that you have for yourself. And that's when the execution becomes more smoothly. Not saying it becomes easier, because there will be challenges. This is why the emotional regulation is important. This is why it's important to have systems to regulate your emotions. So when things get hard and doubt comes up, defeat comes up, discouragement comes up, right? Fear comes up, you're able to regulate that and keep going anyway. That's how you begin to persevere. That's what makes somebody, that's what leads to perseverance, is the emotional regulation. Being able to regulate your nervous system in a way that your emotions don't consume you. They're not bad. They're just giving you signals of like what's happening right now and how you're feeling in the moment, but it's recognizing like how much of this energy deserves my time so that I can still be able to move forward. Now, we talked about a lot today. As you know, I always have something going on. So I just had the Reset Yourself for 2026. It was great. I enjoyed it. And hold on, wrong one. And it was great. The ladies really enjoyed the tips and the insight that I gave and strategies. But now I'm going deeper. At the end of February, February the 23rd. I'm going to have a 2-hour intensive where now we're actually going deep into the actual work. There will be worksheets, there will be workbooks available that's going to help you actually apply a lot of things that I'm talking about in Fire Friday. Not only that, there will be hot seat sessions where there'll be live coaching moments where you can get live coaching from me in the moment to apply a lot of the strategies, a lot of the skills and concepts I'm talking about teaching in the intensive to help apply it to your situation. So this is not something you want to miss. Make sure you visit speakliketransformation.com/intensive to learn more, to register, and share with a friend. Share with a friend that you know needs this as well. Again, subscribe to the Speak Like Transformation TV YouTube channel. Make sure you like this video, like other videos that you may watch. Hit the notification button so you know when I go live again, so you don't miss any announcements of when I go live and when I drop videos. And I hope to see you next Friday for Fire Friday.